So a quick summary of what has been happening in Parliament. There's been a debate and the House has been considering the e-levy. We've heard from both sides of the House, the minority and the majority. We first heard from the ranking member or spokesperson on finance for the minority side, KCL Atoforsen, who described the e-levy as a solution to all problems, according to the finance minister. He related it to the famous Akobam. And he says the tax, if it can cure all sicknesses, then it can also cure the baldness of Okujeto Ablakwa. He says it is not an economic tax, but rather a digital pocket tax. He's suggesting that to the finance minister. The deputy finance minister, Abena Osei Asari, has been explaining to her colleagues on the other side why they should actually accept this homegrown solution. And she says we must favorably approve to solve our economic problems. She says if it is approved, it will help resolve a lot of the problems that we're facing in the country with regards to our economy. We had Adongo, who is also with the Finance Committee of Parliament and is also with the minority, who said government must think outside the box with other alternatives instead of burdening the already burdened Ghanaian to pay the e-levy. He says the e-levy is a retrogression of government's digitization efforts. And then we heard from the finance minister, who says the e-levy will not kill the momo industry as being purported by some people out there. He says rather the e-levy, and he makes comparison with the communication tax. He says the communication tax has rather boosted the communication industry rather than retrogressing it as some people purported when it was going to be introduced. Then we had Jenapo, who is with the Energy and Mines Committee of Parliament. He says we must all say no to momo tax. And he also advised the finance minister, saying that managing the economy is not quoting the Bible and wearing white. It must actually be followed by action. We'll be going back to Parliament. As you can see, the House has adjourned for 30 minutes. They will be coming back to deliberate on the momo tax. We'll be taking you back there. Our colleague Parker Wilson is also there for us. He will be giving us more from that house. But let's come back to the studio. Scores of parents have thronged the Accra Center of the computerized school selection and placement to effect various changes to their choice of schools. The computerized school selection and placement process started 3 days ago. As usual, the process has been fraught with many challenges, with parents in particular complaining about non-placement of their wards and system jam. There have also been issues of students not getting their choice of schools. Some even accuse managers of the system of taking monies behind the door just to get their wards placed in the schools of their choice. Here's my colleague Blessed Soga engaging some parents at the center.
3 days ago, the Ghana Education Service opened its portal to allow for the computerized placement system to be effected, which means that potentially students will now be able to assess the schools that they've been placed in terms of admission into senior high schools across the country. Now, we know that that process started about 3 days ago. However, some parents and schools have had challenges placing students into the various senior high schools. There are also some anomalies in terms of the placement, the computerized placement system. So what the Ghana Education Service, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, has done is to open up a center where parents and those who have challenges accessing the CSSPS system can go onto that portal and then come over here to the NAT hall and then try as much as possible to rectify the challenges that they are having with their system. So what you see now are scores of parents who have been here since morning, trying as much as possible to engage some of the officials of the Ghana Education Service and the placement system to try and rectify their challenges. Some parents have gone through the process already, and let's try and engage engage with some of them. There's a gentleman here who came since morning, right?
Mr. Nelson.
Yes, Nelson has been here since morning, and he actually has a challenge in terms of the placement system for your daughter, right?
Yes, please.
So which school was your daughter placed in?
My daughter was placed at Kaneshi High, Senior High School.
Kaneshi.
Senior High School.
Okay. So what was the challenge with the placement?
The challenge with the placement is that where I live is far from Kaneshi, and he has been given day school, which will be difficult for me looking at the current situation, the transportation problem. So if it were to be boarding school, no problem.
Right. So Nelson, you also tell me that it appears that looking at the grade that your child has, she's not supposed to be placed in the 5th grade school, right? Or 5th selection.
Not at all, because we know that from 6 to 10 is supposed to be 1st grade, and from 11 to 20 is supposed to be 2nd grade. My child got 19, so at least if not 2nd grade, 3rd could have been better, but rather the 5th grade they give to her.
Okay, so since what time did you get here, and have you been attended to?
Well, I came in the morning. I went to the Ministry of Education before we were directed to come here. So we have just arrived here. We have been asked just to write 2 choice of schools and leave. They will call us. So we don't know when they will call.
So you don't even know when?
We don't know our fate. They have given us a paper to write 2 choices of schools and leave. That it's a process, so they will call us. That's what we have been told.
So Nelson, you're hopeful that something will be done about it soon?
Yes, of course. We are hopeful they will do something.
Thanks, Nelson, for talking to us. So Nelson is one of the parents who's actually going through the process here, and if my cameraman can just show you what the process looks like. What you see on your screens now is how the Ghana Education Service has arranged the NAT Hall, a center where it will be engaging parents who have challenges with the placement system. So you see some parents already going through the process of rectifying whatever challenge it is that they have with the school selection system. So if you're listening to us now, or you're watching us live on the Joy News channel, you need to know that where you can rectify all of these challenges is actually at the NAT Hall. NAT Hall. It's a resolution center that has been set up by the Ghana Education Service. Fortunately, some of the supervisors who are here with us, assisting parents through the process, will help us understand what's happening. There's one of the supervisors here who would explain to us. Good morning to you, madam.
Good morning, sir.
Your name?
Afra.
Okay, so Afra, explain the process to us. What are we seeing happening now, and what arrangements have you put in place to resolve the challenges of parents who are here?
Okay, what we are doing now is, this place is a resolution center. Some of the parents are here that they've not gotten a school. Others still want to change school. Others still said they want to change programs, courses, and the rest. Others who want technical school. So that is what we are doing here. So we will look at your issue, and then we see how best we can address it for you. But there's a portal called self-placement portal. So those of them who have not gotten school, we will direct them to go to the CSSPS portal, and then they will go lodge their complaint. We have a lot of schools on the portal, and then they can choose that one for themselves.
But what we see now, I can count over 100 parents here. What's accounting for that long queue that we're seeing on our screens now?
All right, you will pick their issue, that you address it for them later, but they want it to resolve. They want you to resolve it for them immediately, and we can't do it for them now because the access is not active now. The access will be activated latest by close of business today, so we will start working on their issues, and then we have their contact as well. So once their issues is resolved, then we give them a call for them to check and then take the slip to the schools.
Spokesperson for the Ministry of Education, Kwesi Kwarteng, has been responding to some of the concerns.
A question that we need to answer.
Okay. I'm grateful for your time. Kwesi Kwarteng is spokesperson of the Ministry of Education. We'll take a break. When we'll return, Ghana. Kwesi Kwarteng spoke earlier on News Desk. We'll try and get him that soundbite for you, because he's been addressing a number of the problems that is being experienced by parents, and he says they should not be worried. Right, so we can go back to that response from the Ministry of Education. He's been speaking on News Desk.
Put to do various categories. You have category A, category B, and category C schools, and for the category D, which is more or less like compulsory day school within a catchment area. If we look at the criteria of the school, it's largely influenced by usually in terms of the academic performance of that particular school. So, for instance, you have a school like Wesley Girls who may be put in grade A. Also, the subscription. Recently, a school like Manfred Girls, for instance, people are really subscribing because now they are getting some international recognition in robotics and other things. Also, largely based on the variable sectors, performance, subscription, infrastructure. So you have the categorization of these schools. So students are encouraged to select 6 of these schools. You can select just one choice within the category A school, and then category B, you are able to prevent situations where you have all the over 555,000 students which are eligible for placement, or probably selecting just few schools. You can also have that possibility. So when there is a placement regime like this or a system like this, I mean, BK Grant Technologies, they are doing very well with the system and administration of the system. This year, I'm not sure you've heard situations where candidates and their awards are in Independence Square crying and of course, I mean, making their concerns about this.
But I've heard candidates who've been placed where they did not even choose.
I'll come there. It's almost impossible in that circumstance, and I'll be surprised. But of course, I mean, that's why we have the resolution centers there. If there is a system, but so having explained the selection criteria, what we did, the Minister for Education said that, well, I mean, there has been in the past instances where students said, I wasn't placed in this place, I wasn't placed in this school. So what the Minister directed the CSSP Secretariat to do is that send back all the selected schools to the various candidates. We call that process text for confirmation, so that they confirm indeed if that is the schools that they selected or they chose at the end of the day. If there is any mismatch, you give them the opportunity to liaise with their school. Because remember, in the selection process, they give a copy of the slip to the school, they keep one, while 2 has a copy. So where there have to be changes, quickly, they'll go and make the change.
So in that case, they send it back to the schools or the students themselves?
The students, yes.
Okay, individually?
Individually. Most of the times, most of the students also provided the contacts of their guardians. So most of the is based on the contact that you send. That was the first stage with regards to the placement process. Because you have the selection process and then the placement process. But before we went ahead with the placement process, we gave the opportunity to confirm what you've done. Okay. So it will be almost impossible for us to do otherwise. At the end of the day, then we started with the placement. And of course, the placement, a lot of students mix out. It's possible that people will mix out on their first choice. So today I had an instance where somebody said she had grade 10 and she couldn't make any of her choices. Now, Aisha, this will be the circumstances on which those issues can happen. So I had grade 10. I select a school like Prempeh College, or for instance, you also had grade 10, select a school like Wesley Girls. These are very overly subscribed schools, highly very competitive. So you select a program like General Science. For instance, you have a vacancy of, let's say, 500 for general science students or 300 for general science students. Let's use 300 for the hypothetically. Then you had grade 10, and about 700 people subscribed to that school or chose that school. Within this 700, you have about 400 of them that had grade 6. What it means is that they are going to be considered first because their aggregate is better than yours. It means that when you've missed your first chance or the first opportunity in getting enlisted in your first school, then you move you to your second school. But what you should remember, Aisha, is that your second school is also the first choice of somebody, another person. And so it's also possible that you mix your second school. But, I mean, look, for instance, you get to even your second choice. You had grade 10. I also had grade 10. There is still probably one space left. Then we look at what we call the tie system. If there is any tie, then we consider what we call the raw score. So your raw score, Aisha, probably you had 400. I had 400 and maybe 11. It means that I will also have an opportunity. We also consider things like, let's say, their residential status. Aisha, if there are declared vacancies in Wesley Girls, let's say 500 for boarding, and we all had the same grade 10, and you selected day, and I selected, let's say, boarding. It is possible that the day student may get it because probably the boarding, the vacancies there has been exhausted. So
it's been 30 years of fruitless attempts to conceive after their first child. The couple, 62-year-old Ethel and 66-year-old Daniel, lost hope of nursing another child. But as fate would have it, the over 60-year-old husband and wife are currently nursing their 4-month-old triplets. Yes, a rare story in instances of couple battling with childlessness. It was an ecstatic atmosphere when the couple, together with members of the Ebenezer Assemblies of God Church at Kotobabi, danced to praises songs in appreciation to God for changing their story. Marcy Numo joined them at a dedication service and has come through with this report.
Like Abraham and Sarah in the Bible, the waiting period for Daniel and Ethel was fraught with frustrations and stigma.
You know, women, some gossip about me.
Oh, it was very horrifying, very troublesome, because always you have to you will be disturbed. Why not have another child after the first child?
But today, their joy has been made complete as they hold their most adorable treasures, Alexander, Alexandra, and Alexina.
These triplets came in on the 29th of November, 2021. So we were very gratified that the Lord has done for all that we have been asking all these years. I'm always thankful to the Lord for what He has done for us.
For Ethel, who had to try many fertility treatments, the arrival of the triplets has boosted her trust and confidence in God.
I hope to have many, but I couldn't make it. I always keep on praying for Almighty God, and I have faith and belief within me that I will surely have a baby. And because of that, even her childhood dresses, I've never thrown single away. During 45, I started going treatments. But there is no result and I stop. But always I wish I will get some. That is my wish.
The firstborn of the couple, 30-year-old Daniela, is excited to play the big sister role, a task she cherishes dearly.
I must say I closed my mind on that because it's been so many years. So, yeah, but you know, you can't stop God from doing what He's good at doing. It's been amazing, right from the time they were birthed, seeing them alone. It's been joyful. These are my siblings we are talking about, so I can't be relying on somebody to do that.
For Daniel and Ethel, seeing an impossible.
Oh, wow. We'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you details of the African Development Bank that is planning a $1 billion emergency food production. Stay tuned in.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The African Development Bank is planning a $1 billion emergency food production initiative for Africa, including Ghana, to avoid any looming food crisis triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Both Russia and Ukraine are leading producers of cereals. President of AFDB, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, says the injection of capital is necessary to avoid inflation going up in most African countries.
The plan is to be able to produce roughly 30 million metric tons of food, and to get technologies into the hands of 20 million farmers. So you're looking at big scale with smallholder farmers. When COVID struck, we were not ready. But this time, we are fully ready, and we will avert a food crisis, and we will avert also the impact on inflation. But we do need the money to be able to very quickly intervene and get it done. The biggest challenge Europe has right now is how to secure its energy supply. There are a lot of investors that are going to be diversifying out of Russia, of course, right? And they want to diversify into whether it's energy, whether it's gas, whether it's into minerals and metal, processing and beneficiation. That's a real opportunity, I think, for Africa at this point in time.
And that was an interview with Reuters. In other news, the war between Russia and Ukraine keeps impacting global food supply chains, with Ghana's major export earner, cocoa, not left out. Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boyne Edu, has revealed that the situation has skyrocketed fertilizer prices, making it next to impossible to import the needed ingredients for cocoa cultivation. Speaking to the newly constituted management committee, Mr. Edu Boyne called for an emergency national strategy for cocoa farmers, saying the acute shortage in fertilizer will last for the next 2 years.
Coming years is going to be very difficult for us as a sector and also for our farmers, because the war in Ukraine has also come to compound the adverse effects of the COVID pandemic, to the extent that the basic ingredients or elements needed in producing fertilizers and other chemicals are going to be difficult to come by. So we have to brace ourselves for the coming years, maybe 1 or 2 years, and expect that prices of fertilizers are not going to be the same. Even getting the quantities, the fertilizers, the quantities, because essentially, the very basic elements that are needed to produce the fertilizers will not be there because of the war. So it will mean that management committee will have to come up with strategic direction, and then some strategic guidelines for our farmers. It has also affected all the parts of the industry, including the Cocoa Research Institute. So in these difficult times, we are calling on the new management to give leadership. This is one issue: show your class. We want you to provide the leadership that will ensure prudence in the management of affairs at Cocoa Research Institute. We believe that, with time, we will overcome these difficulties. The situation has also been aggravated by the attack in Ukraine, the ongoing war in Ukraine. And CREC is going to be more affected, because you are talking about the active ingredients that will be needed in the production of essential inputs, fertilizers and chemicals. Ukraine is affected, so getting our sulfate ammonia is going to be difficult. The same Belarus, and then Russia. These are the centers where we get these basic, elements.
And that's all in business. The news continues.